Thank you, everybody. Thank you to everybody who joined us this evening, and welcome to the Cybersecurity Identity Theft Protection virtual event. So my name is Flora, and I am an OSPI Exchange Hub ambassador at the Toronto location. I'm the secretary of the Toronto Exchange Hub, and I'm a fourth-year mechanical engineering student at Ryerson University. I'm happy to be here with everybody this evening. So before we begin, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge that we are coming to you from Toronto, which is in the Dish with One Spoon territories. We respect, acknowledge the past and present traditional owners of this territory and their unique roles in the lives of the region. Toronto is on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nations. We pay respect to their elders past, present, and emerging. As settlers, we are grateful for the opportunities to live, work, and play in this territory. On behalf of all the OSPI members, thank you to our partners for their incredible and ongoing support to Toronto's engineering community. In 2019, the OSPI Exchange Hub was started at some academic institutions across Ontario. The 5 hubs are launched at McMaster University, Queen's University, Ryerson University, University of Guelph, and the University of Windsor. The intent is to provide the individual OSPI members with opportunities to collaborate on concerns relevant to engineering, regardless of career stage, in a multidisciplinary environment, on initiatives specific to geographic sectors. In saying this, the OSPI Toronto Exchange Hub organized this Cybersecurity Identity Theft Protection virtual panel event to discuss how identity theft is one of the most common types of fraud that is happening every day, and how to protect our identity. Please note that there is closed captioning features that you can enable by clicking on the CC on the bottom navigation menu. Please submit all your questions via the chat feature. All questions will be answered at the end of the discussion during the question and answer portion of the event. So let's jump in. I would like to introduce our speaker for this evening, Changiz Sadr. Changiz is a telecommunication engineer and a licensed professional engineer in Ontario. Prior to his current assignment to the leadership team of Space Place Canada and his recent appointments to Canadian Engineering Qualifications Board and the Board of Engineers Canada, he was practicing in areas of communication, infrastructure, engineering, and cybersecurity for several years. Now take it away, Changiz.
Thank you, Flora, and thank you, Toronto Exchange Hub of OSPI, Tayeb, Natasha, for giving me this opportunity, and thank you everyone for attending. Before I start, I would like to share with you a short video about 2.5 minutes about the identity theft, and then I can continue. So just
telemarketers calling from a number that looks a lot like yours, same area code and even the same first few digits, trying to get your personal information, promising free cruises and warranties. And now scammers are doing it too.
Criminals realize that you're more apt to answer your phone if they call from an area code that you're in. And even more crazy, they can actually make the call look like it's coming from somebody you already know.
They can actually mimic somebody's phone number now.
Absolutely. So for example, I can call somebody and make it look like you're calling them.
You said you will be able to call my producer, Giovanna, who's actually just off camera right over there. Hi, Giovanna. You can call her from your phone.
Yes.
Posing as me.
Absolutely.
We aren't showing you how he does it, but seconds later.
There it is. It says Jeff Rossen work. It's your picture. This is literally what happens when you call me. I would see this and 100% think it was you.
That is crazy. And by the way, everybody, this is my phone.
Yeah.
We called from your phone, not mine.
Then he ramps it up, showing us what a real criminal would do, and calls my mom as me, again from his phone.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Mom, real quick, I need your social security number and fill out some beneficiary forms. Can you help me out real quick?
What?
I've got this beneficiary form. I just need to fill it out. What's your social security number real fast?
Oh,
Great. Thanks a lot, Mom. Love you.
And now you have it.
That's it. I've got her social security number.
Think it can't happen to you? Even the chairman of the FCC has been spoofed.
What is the FCC doing now to stop this, to protect me?
A few different things. Number one, we are empowering phone companies to block robocalls that appear to be spoofed with no legitimate purpose. Number two, we are taking aggressive action against robocallers. And number three, we're working with the industry to develop more technological solutions.
In the meantime, experts say apps like Mr. Number and True Caller can help, alerting you to spoofed calls. But the best advice, never give personal information over the phone unless you made the call yourself.
That wasn't even from my phone. He was just posing as me.
you're kidding.
Because you never know who's on the other end. Jeff Rossen, NBC News, San Diego.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And now I can, now that I have your attention, I can go on my PowerPoint presentation, and hopefully you can see that. So I start with identity theft. Why identity theft is happening? The main reason is to access your financial accounts or accounts takeover. That's the most common reason for identity theft. Or they want to hack into your online accounts, such as Netflix, PayPal, Amazon account, or different accounts that you have. Or sometimes they take your information to defraud others through emails or using your driver license number, SIN number, opening new accounts, requesting new credit cards. And sometimes they use the initial stolen information to make a secondary attack for the bigger result. So talking cyber attack, the most common types of cyber attacks are malware. Everyone is aware of malware. It's the virus or the worm, Trojan, the malicious file that can infect your computer, your system. Ransomware is another common type of attack, which the attackers lock your system completely or lock your most used file, usually the financial files, and then they ask for ransom money. The other type is denial of service attack. In this type of attack, attackers try to send thousands of requests to a computer, to a server. And because the computer cannot respond, all those thousands of requests at the same time, the server just freezes up. And this can happen to a web server. When you see a web is down, usually it's denial of service attack that happens, or it can be a mail server like Exchange server or a different type. The other common type of cyber attack is password attacks. There are applications out there. They try to basically get your password by trying different combinations. And that's why it is crucial to choose a combination of letters, numbers, and special characters as password that can be hard for those applications to track it. Drive-by downloads is another case. We all download free files from internet. Remember, there is nothing free. And so when we download the free files, because most of them have open source code, very easily they can add malicious code to that. And when we download those free files, we download those malicious files and we get our system infected. Man in the middle is another type. The attacker sits between you and your service provider, or between you and the other party that you are communicating with, and pretends that is the other party and communicates with you and gets the information. Dumpster diving is another type. It's very common. Remember, we all receive different statements like insurance, phone statement, hydro statement. And usually on those statements, we have some personal information, name, address, account number, and some other things. And sometimes we keep those statements for a few months and maybe a few years. And after that, we dump them in a recycle bin. And that's where the attackers use those the dumped papers to get personal information from. So the best way is just to shred them or to burn them. And finally, the phishing is another very common type of the cyber attack. And based on the report, very recent report from different cybersecurity organizations in North America specifically, phishing is one of the very most common type of attacks to get the information and personal identity information and other information. So talking about phishing attack. Phishing attack can happen through phone calls. It can happen through instant or text messages. It can happen through social media, and the most common types through emails. And when phishing attack, generally, how it happens, they try to mimic another person, sometimes or another organization, and try to make you believe that their communication, whichever way of these methods that I mentioned here, are true communication, and try to get you to respond with their request, and that's how they get your personal information. Talking about phone calls, CRA phone calls is one of the very, very common types, and I don't believe there is anyone who has never received this, the CRA fake calls. And as you can see on the page, between 2014 and 2019, this information is from end of 2019, more than 4,000 Canadians were impacted by these fake CRA phone calls, and over $15 million were lost. These are the information I have taken from CRA websites. CRA very clearly on their website, they say, we never do these things. We never send email to people and ask them to divulge personal or financial information. We never ask personal information of any kind by email or text. These are very important to remember about CRA actions. We never request payments by credit cards. We never give taxpayer information to another person unless they have formal authorization. And this is very important one. That's why I put it in bold. We never leave personal information on an answering machine. Those fake CRA calls, if you don't answer, you get a message that you see on a message. It says you have a file against you and blah, blah, blah. So CRA says we never do this. There is one exception. If you call CRA and while you are on the phone, You ask for some information, they may send a link or attachment while you are on the phone talking to them. And that's when you have contacted them. So this is very important, and this is an exception. Another type of the fraud is through text. This is an example of a fake text that you receive. There is a link, and it says, yeah, there is a deposit of $98. If you click on the link, then your phone or your system will be impacted. Another type is a phone number, which they ask you to call the phone. If you call that number, either they pretend that they are someone, and they hold you on the phone, and then they charge you by minute, very expensive charges, or they try to make another type of attack while you are on the phone. And these are two different other types of just text phishing. There are links and ask you to click on the links. We need to make sure that if we don't have anything, for example, if I receive a text from Manitoba Hydro, I'm living in Ontario, I have nothing to do with Manitoba Hydro. You know, stuff like that, very simple. If it's suspicious, don't click on it and delete it. So another thing is ATM machine. If you can see, there is a plastic piece that you can, they can put it on the card holder or card reader of the ATM machine, which also this can happen on the pumps, on the gas stations, but usually this is not in a crowded cities, in major cities. That's rural areas, or, you know, a small, you know, grocery store, convenience store, you know, in the corner of nowhere, basically. If you happen to be there and you have to use your card, try to pull out that card holder thing, because they don't install it, they just push it in. If you pull it out and it easily comes out, then don't use your card there, because it reads your card, it reads your PIN number, and then they can use it. This is another example. I'm giving several real-life examples to you of the phishing and how you can recognize that's phishing. And at the end, I finish with some golden and silver rules of protection. So this is an example on LinkedIn. I have received this invitation from someone. The person is in New York, and the position has nothing to do with what I do. So it's kind of suspicious to me. I'm sure every one of you, I ask, please, if you don't speak, put your microphone on mute, just to keep the background noise at minimum. Thank you. What I did in this case, as you can see, I searched the name on LinkedIn, and you can see two names came up, exact same name, exact same position. So one of them is fake. So one person is trying to use another member's information to connect with someone. And there are many things beyond this LinkedIn connectivity. So for me, because I don't know which one is true, which one is not, I just ignore the invitation. So these are, you know, the caution that you need to pay attention to, and to make sure that you are getting the right information and right invitation. Another example, I'm receiving a picture from someone I know, and I'm very curious to open the picture. But as you can see, attacker is using a specific file extension. What is SVG? I have it at the bottom of the screen. Scalable vector graphic is not very common used extension, and it's open source. Because it's not very common used extension, what would happen if I click on that picture? Another dialog box opens here, and it says, because you do not have the driver for that SVG file, download the plugin. Up to this point, nothing will happen to my system. But if I click to add the extension, that's where the malicious file will be added to my system and infect my system. So this is something we need to make sure. The best way is just to contact the person we know and verify with them if they have sent the picture or not. This is another example. All of a sudden, I open my computer and I receive something like this. The first thing, if you notice there, the URL, the web address is not from Google. And also, if you have not logged off your Google before, then this is suspicious. You should not act on it, just ignore it. Another thing from another application, same thing. The URL, the web address is not from the Adobe. This is another email I received in 2017. It looks like that the email is coming from Royal Bank. So there are some points here on this email to pay attention to. First of all, it says "Dear" and my email address. This indicates that they don't know my name. Although my name is on my email, this was an old Simpatico email address I was using, but the attacker does not know if Changiz Sadr is my name. And usually, a bank never sends you an email and calling you by your email. So this is the first point that I should pay attention to. The second point, it's coming from RBC, but the email address of the sender is bell.ca. It's very suspicious. Royal Bank has its own domain, why the email is coming from bell.ca. Another thing, look at here the link that they have put there. And the link, it says www.1.royalbank.com. It's a little bit suspicious there too. So there are several points on this email that indicates this is a phishing email. This email wants me to click on that link, and as soon as you click on that link, you go on the malicious website, and then whatever information you enter there will be stolen. So what I did on this specific email, look at here. If you hover your mouse on the link, although it says royalbank.com, but as you can see, the address shows, it says marresearch.com.cn. It's a completely different address. So it's not Royal Bank address. That's another reason for not clicking on the link and just deleting the email. This is a legitimate Royal Bank, and as you can see, Royal Bank has its own domain. So if an email is coming from Royal Bank, should come from this domain, not from bell.ca. This is a legitimate email. I put it here for your information. This is from TD. As you can see, first of all, bank calls us by our name. And also, as you can see on this email, there is no link, there is no attachment. So it's just information. It's informing me about something about my account. And this is another legitimate email from Bank of Montreal, BMO. I have tried to use different banks here to show you that how the phishing emails can mimic the logo and the name of the banks, and how the legitimate emails from those banks could be. On this email, as you can see, if I hover my mouse over the link that shows is news.bmo.com, and that's exactly news.bmo.com from the email address. So it's a legitimate email address from BMO. This is how you can check the link to make sure if you are in any doubt, if you are not waiting for BMO, if you do not have any account on BMO, just delete it. Don't even spend time on it. So this is another type of the phishing email, a general email that is being sent to many people. Here you see the receiver address is not my address. So I have been BCC'd on this email, and also it says dear applicant on top of the email, not the name. So this is a general email that is sent to several people, and most likely they have a bunch of email addresses and they want to find out who responds back to this email. That means who is a person behind that email that they can find out about the validity of the email and then make the other attack. So what happens here, you can see this is the sender's email. Just for test, if I want to reply to this email, you see the email address when I reply is completely different email than the sender's email. So this shows the sender's email, even maybe a recruiter email or a legitimate email is spoofed. But when I want to reply, it goes to a completely different email, which is the attacker's email address. And they just want to find out if I am sitting behind my email. So I didn't reply, of course. I just wanted to show you that if I want to reply, it goes to a different email address. This is another type. I copied it from the web. This is just the PayPal. If you don't use PayPal, if you receive an email like this, just delete it. Another type of phishing email that we receive is from attackers who pretend they are calling from our service provider or are from hosting companies. So it says unusual sign-in activity. And as you can see in the middle, they have identified a phone number and they ask you to call. And it is a 1-800 number, so it's less suspicious. We say, okay, yeah, this is coming from my support team and there is a phone number. But if you don't have any problem with your computer or you have not requested a support call, just don't call that number. The best way is to Google that number to find out what is the history on that phone number, and most likely you will find, and that phone number is a fake number, and there have been several reports on it. I have similar example that I show you later on. And this is again a different type of phishing email. I believe most of you have heard George Comrie's name. He was the past president of PO. I know George for 20 years. Okay, this is an email. It's coming from George Comrie and is asking for $5,600 money. It says, I am in a bad condition. Sorry. It says, I'm in a bad condition and yeah, just help me and give me $5,600. But what is suspicious on this email address is the address of the sender. As you can see, it says George Comrie, and it uses George Comrie's PO's email address. But then the latest or the last address which the email has come from is not George Comrie's email. So definitely this is not from George Comrie. If for whatever reason, I may think that this is from George Comrie, the best is to call George Comrie and verify with him. So another similar email is coming from someone I know in my own community. It says I'm in Manila, Philippines, and ask for help. But again, when I look at the email address is not the email address of the person I know. So again, that's a phishing email address. Many of us work with Interact to transfer money, and this is the email I received back in 2019, and it says that someone with the name of Claude Mullen has deposited $1,900 to my account. So But before I want to click on that one, I pay attention to a couple of points. First, it says hi, but my name is not there. So if this is coming from Interact, it should come to me. And the second thing, as you can see, the email is coming from someone with the name of Claude Moulin. It's a personal email. It's coming from the Claude Moulin. So I show you a legitimate Interact email. First of all, the email, although it has the name of the sender, but the email itself is coming from interact.ca. That indicates that the email is coming from Interact. And second, it is in my name. So it's coming to me. So my name is used there. And then it says, hi, Changiz said, this person has deposited some money to you. So this is the legitimate email from Interact. This is another type of email again. As you can see, it says, dear, my email address. No name. And it says email server alert, and it says, yeah, there are some issues and contact there. And when I hover the email the server alert, as you can see, the email shows it's hosting at sadr.ca. Sadr.ca was my own domain before my retirement. When I had my own company, I was using my own domain, sadr.ca. But I never created hosting at sadr.ca. So this wants to basically to show me that they have taken over my account, created some account, fake account, and they are sending me, or they want me to believe that this is coming from my hosting service provider. So this is a fake email address for sure, email for sure, and I deleted it. Another type of email address, spoofing, similar to the video clip that you saw at the beginning. As you can see, the sender has spoofed my email address. So basically, the email is coming from my own email address to me. So if I want to reply to this email, it goes to myself. And also, when they spoof my email address, they want me to believe that my account is taken over and whatever they say in their email is true. In this email, it's a long email. I have just the bottom portion of the email here on this picture, but on top portion, it's a long email. They say that your camera was on and we have taken some pictures from you doing this, doing that, some video clips. And then they ask for $1,000 US, and they given me a Bitcoin wallet address. And also they tell me that if you do not give this money to us within 48 hours, we publish those pictures and those videos on social media. So they want me to basically they scare me. They want me to believe that they are true, and I pay the money. Okay, if something like this happens, usually I try to Google the unique information on the email. On this email, the only unique piece of information is the Bitcoin wallet address. So what I did, I Googled the Bitcoin wallet address, and as you can see, 112 cases were reported only on this Bitcoin address. So that indicates that this is a fake email, fake ransom email. So basically, they don't ask you to click on anything, or they don't ask you to open an attachment. They ask you for money, and they want to scare you to pay them the money you want. So they want. So that's 112 cases. And this is again from same Google page. As you can see, many of the emails reported are just copy and paste. And this happened in December 2018. So, and there are similar cases like this. The best way, again, I mentioned, is to Google the unique piece of information on the email to make sure that it is a legitimate, and if you can contact them, contact them. So this is another type of, I'm watching the time as well. This is another type of email I have received. The email is basically sent to the sender. Naomi Hayashi is the name of the person. And as you can see, it says reply to, and I am BCC'd on this email. When I am BCC'd on an email, the first thing comes to my mind is they only have one email address from me, and they want me to respond to them to show that, yes, this email is valid and I am sitting behind this email. And also on this email, as you can see, they ask for acknowledgement. What is the acknowledgement? Just to respond back on this email. And when I click on this email to respond, as you can see, although on the email it says reply to, but return path address is a completely different address. So again, maybe that Naomi Hayashi is a known name, maybe a recruiter, someone I know, but when I want to return, it goes to a completely different email address, to a different country. And yeah, this is an indication of a fake email, a phishing email, and I just need to delete it. And this is the final example, real life example of phishing. As you can see here, this is another email address, is coming from an engineering company. And it's talking basically about independent contractor. I was a consultant before retirement, so I am looking for engineering contracts. So this email like this can be very interesting and attractive to me. And as you can see, the email is signed by someone from human resources of the company. But there is one suspicious thing on this email, and that is the email address. The first question comes to my mind is, why is someone from HR department of this company using a general outlook.com email address to send me a formal invitation email to a contract? So this is definitely a suspicious email. What I did here, I Googled the name of the company. The company exists. It is a legitimate company. But as you can see on top, that's the domain name of the company. So the company has its own domain, and it's a Chinese company. It's in China. But if the previous email was really sent from the HR department of that company, the email must have had this domain in the email, not outlook.com. So that's suspicious. Then I just delete the email. So based on these real life examples that I gave you, and on each of them, I mentioned, something that how to look to it, but there are some rules, general rules, that if we comply to these rules, we can always protect our identity. And the golden rules, of course, are the reason I call them golden rules, because of their importance. The first one, never ever provide any info to people who have contacted you. You remember the video clip at the beginning? Even if someone has called me and I am 100% sure that this person is someone I know, is my brother, is my best friend, is my sister, my wife, my father, doesn't matter who. If they have contacted me and they ask for some sensitive information, I bring some excuse, even if I am sure. After I disconnected, I contact them from the contact number I have to verify and ask them, did you call me just a few minutes ago and asking for my social insurance number? And with that verification, if he or she basically confirmed that they had called, then I will give the number. Otherwise, never ever someone who has contacted me, I provide any information to. I never provide any information to people who have contacted me. Second golden rule, never ever click on any file site link that you do not know its nature. You know, I showed you several examples. I just received an email from a bank, from a company, from a person. I have never requested that information. I had no previous communication with them. So that email is just happened. The nature is suspicious. We should never respond back, specifically if we are BCC'd on those emails. And the third one, never ever act in a physical environment before making sure it is safe. You remember the ATM machine fraud, the plastic piece that they push on the card holder? That's one of the things. If you go and you want to act to use your card in an ATM machine or in any other location, which may look suspicious, just make sure that it is safe before you want to act on it. And some silver rules, always set up a strong password for your devices that connected to internet. For password, as I mentioned, I repeat again, the best password is the combination of letters, numbers, and special characters. Rule number 2, never respond to emails from an unknown source, specifically if you are BCC'd on. Many people have a bunch of email addresses which they don't know if those email addresses are valid or not. And they put in a one message with the BCC and you receive it. If you respond, they know that that email is valid. Basically, you have validated the email address, and that's the first step for the second attack. Don't do it. Rule number 3, always, if possible, use VPN to connect the internet, specifically at the public places. You may not believe this, although my wife and I are only users at home on our VPN, on our Wi-Fi, which is a secured Wi-Fi. It has password and everything. When I connect to my own Wi-Fi, I connect through VPN. Right now, I'm using a VPN, so it's very safe. And of course, when I am in a public places such as airport or something, the best way is to use it. Always set up a reliable backup system, specifically for ransomware attack. You know, if they lock your system or for whatever, just to respond, if you have the valid and proper backup, doesn't matter. You can reformat your system and then take your backup and all your files are there. And finally, always disconnect your internet when your device is idle. I find it very useful. Say, for example, I'm using my computer right now. When this presentation is over, and this meeting is, this event is over, and I want to leave my computer, because I don't turn off my computer, what I do, I just disconnect the Wi-Fi connectivity from my computer, then I leave it. If you are the type of person who turn off your computer, that's fine. If you leave at your computer to go to sleep mode and you don't turn it off, the best is to disconnect the Wi-Fi. And that was my presentation. Thank you very much. And I go back to here. And go back to you, Flora.
Thank you, Changiz. Does anybody have any questions? If anything, I can start. So what do we foresee in emerging threats in identity theft?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What do we foresee in emerging threats for identity theft?
Yeah, basically, identity theft is always there. And one point that we should remember, whatever the technology is improving, whatever we get the higher technology, higher applications and everything, hackers are moving parallel with this. And sometimes hackers are ahead of the good people. So this is something, the best way to protect our privacy and our identity is, as I mentioned, just to use those general rules. Then doesn't matter what type of technology we are using, if it's emerging technology, if it's emerging threat, if it's a zero-day attack, for example, the type of malicious file that our antivirus file cannot detect it, doesn't matter. If we follow those rules, we can protect ourselves. So the best way is just to comply with the general protection rules.
Thank you. So you did talk a lot about identity theft for like personal, personal use, but how is cybersecurity incorporated in the development of like EVs, like electrical vehicles, or like just technology in that sense?
Yeah, it is personal, but we use email addresses in the corporate world as well in our job. And there are many examples of phishing email that happens to the corporates. And even for 2020 data breach investigation report, which comes from Verizon, it indicates that over 72% of the attacks in year 2020 have happened to large enterprises. And by definition, large enterprise is the enterprise with more than 1,000 employees. And for phishing email, I'm not sure if I mentioned this at the presentation or not, probably not. We have, like a spear phishing, when the phishing email comes to a specific person by name, and we have whaling attack, which is usually planned for C-level executives of the companies. So doesn't matter. This attacker, it's social engineering. It's a model of social engineering and pretending that someone, and even if I remember correctly, the last year or maybe in the year before, in a very big space company in Austria, the CEO and the CFO were fired because they had opened the phishing email and they have lost lots of information and lots of money about that phishing information. And that's, so if we use this general rules that I mentioned for our corporation world, again, for corporation world also it works. So it's not just individual, it's protection of identity as a person or as an employee, as an executive or whoever. So we need to consider that way.
So we have a couple of questions in the chat. So Joe asked, do you suggest to stop the Wi-Fi on your cell phone when you put it down? Very similar to a laptop?
Yeah, that's a good question. On the phone, it's kind of different. If you stop your Wi-Fi on the phone, when you don't work with it, that's a good idea. That's like disconnecting the Wi-Fi, as I mentioned, from my computer, right? Because your phone is connected and it has nothing to do with your Wi-Fi. That way, you protect your phone. From the other point, you can install mobile protection apps on your phone exactly like your computer, because the phone is a computer and it scans file in exactly the same protection it provides for your computer, it can provide for your phone, and similar to your laptop. If you don't have anything to do with your Wi-Fi, just disconnect it.
Okay. And I think Tayeb also has a question. So what is a VPN and how do you connect to it?
Yeah, VPN is a virtual private network. And there are, of course, there are free VPNs available, which I don't recommend to use them because those are free and usually they comes with some cost. But there are good VPNs, virtual private networks available. How it works, consider virtual private network like a tunnel between your end and the other end at the other side of the internet. When you want to reach point B on the internet, if you don't use VPN, you use the open internet to get to point B. But if you use VPN, it's like a protected tunnel which connects you to point B. So other people from the open area of internet cannot access that tunnel. So my recommendation to use a good VPN is to use, for example, Norton VPN. Norton is one of the security service providers, and they have a very good and reliable VPN that you can use. I'm using Norton VPN.
Nice. We're definitely going to look into that. So what are your thoughts on blockchain technology?
Blockchain is, another type of technology. Regardless of how it works, what is important for hackers is the internet connectivity, or the way that they can connect to whatever that device or whatever that system is. That system can be a blockchain, or that system can be IoT, like autonomous car, or that system can be your toaster in your house, which is IoT connected to internet. Doesn't matter. The way that it's connected to the internet, if it's not protected, it's a vulnerability. And if attacker find out that there is a vulnerability there, they can attack it. Then the system itself doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter if it's blockchain or a toaster at your home or your fridge. The node and internet connectivity is important point, which we need to protect.
Mm-hmm. So what about Mozilla? It's a Firefox web browser. It has a VPN now. Would you trust them?
Yeah, but again, Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, these are different type of web browsers available. From our point of view, from user point of view, we are connecting to those web browsers through internet, and then through their server, we connect to different files. It's the matter of the security that they have on their systems. From our point of view, if I use VPN, doesn't matter what type of web browser I'm using, because I am protecting my own connectivity. If I use a web browser which is coming from Google or from Firefox, and if there are any issues with their system, I am protected because I'm using a protected connection. That's what matters.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And it was really interesting talking to you and listening to you about phishing and having so many examples. So this concludes our virtual event. I would like to thank our speaker this evening and the Exchange Hub members that came together to organize this event and, you know, took their time out of their busy schedule to get all this event together. And again, thank you for joining us, and have a great evening.
Thank you very much for having me, and have a good evening, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.